The first-class cabin of flight 2247 from Chicago to New York was exactly the kind of place Daniel Hargrove felt most comfortable, quiet, polished, and populated by people who
How are you
understood
holding
the
up?
value of
A
silence.
little nervous, it's bumpy.
He had paid
Don't worry, we'll be fine.
I
$4,200
know,
for his
thank
seat,
you.
not because he
Look at
needed
the
to,
clouds, they're
but
glowing.
because
Yeah,
he
it's
had long
beautiful,
since
like a
stopped
dream.
tolerating anything
So
less than the
peaceful.
best.
It really is.
At 43, Daniel was the founder and CEO of Hargrove Capital, a private equity firm managing over $6 billion in assets. He wore a charcoal Armani suit, carried a $3,000 briefcase, and hadn't missed a quarterly earnings target in 11 years. He settled into seat 2A, opened his laptop, and prepared to work. That's when she sat down next to him. She was in her mid-30s, maybe, it was hard to tell. Because grief has a way of aging a person. Her coat was clean but clearly old. The kind of coat that had been taken care of because it couldn't be replaced. Her hands, wrapped around a battered leather purse, were trembling. She said nothing. She looked out the window. And then, quietly, in the way people cry when they're trying their hardest not to, she began to weep. Daniel stared at his laptop screen and told himself it was none of his business. He answered 2 emails. He reviewed a merger proposal. He told himself again that it was none of his business. But the woman beside him, she wasn't making a scene. She wasn't asking for attention. She was simply falling apart in the smallest, most private way possible, and something about that, the dignity of her sadness, made it impossible for Daniel to look away. He closed his laptop. "Excuse me," he said, keeping his voice low. "Are you all right?" She turned to him, startled, as if she had forgotten anyone else existed. Her eyes were red and wet, dark brown, and filled with a kind of exhaustion that went far beyond a bad day. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, wiping her face with the back of her hand. "I didn't mean to, I'm fine." "I'm sorry." "You don't have to apologize," Daniel said. He wasn't sure why he kept talking. He usually didn't. "Do you want some water?" She blinked at him, then nodded once, very slightly. As if accepting kindness required courage she wasn't sure she had. He flagged the flight attendant. Water came. The woman held the cup in both hands like it was something precious. "I'm Daniel," he said. "Claire," she replied. Claire Maddox. They didn't speak again for almost 20 minutes. The plane climbed through the clouds. Daniel didn't reopen his laptop. He wasn't sure why. It was Claire who finally spoke. "I just came from identifying my brother," she said. No preamble. No softening. Just the raw fact. Delivered in a voice that had clearly already used up all its tears for the moment. "He died 4 days ago. I've been in Chicago settling things." Daniel felt the words land somewhere deep in his chest. "I'm sorry," he said. And meant it in a way he hadn't meant anything in a very long time. He was 37, Claire continued, staring at the seat back in front of her. His name was Marcus. He was a carpenter. He was the funniest person I've ever known. A small, broken smile crossed her face. He could make anyone laugh, even at the worst moments. "What happened to him?" Daniel asked quietly. Claire took a slow breath. "He'd been sick for 2 years. His heart. He needed surgery, a valve replacement. The doctor said it was very doable. Very routine." She paused. "But the surgery cost $180,000. Marcus didn't have insurance. He'd been freelancing, doing carpentry work, small jobs. He applied for financial assistance 3 times. Got denied every time. He tried to get a loan. Got denied. He started a fundraiser online." She shook her head. "He raised $9,000. People were kind. But $9,000 isn't $180,000. Daniel said nothing. He was listening in a way he hadn't listened to another human being in years. Not analyzing. Not calculating. Just listening. "He kept working," Claire said. "Right up until 6 months ago. He said the manual labor was getting harder. But he didn't stop, because he was saving money. He was going to save enough. She finally looked at Daniel. And her eyes held not anger, but something worse, a quiet disbelief at the way the world was built. He came $40,000 short. The hospital put him on a payment plan they knew he couldn't keep. And then he had a cardiac event last Tuesday morning. Alone in his apartment, before anyone could get to him. The plane hummed around them. Somewhere behind them, a child laughed at something on a tablet screen. The world went on, indifferent. He had a daughter, Claire added, almost as an afterthought. She's 9. Her name is Lily. Her mother passed away 2 years ago. Marcus was raising her alone. She pressed her lips together. I'm taking her in now. She's with my neighbor right now. Back in New York. She doesn't fully understand yet. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. What do you do, Claire? He asked. I'm a school librarian, she said. In Queens. I love it. It doesn't pay much, but I love it. She almost laughed. But it didn't quite make it. I have a 1-bedroom apartment. I'm trying to figure out how to make it work for the two of us. I'll figure it out. We'll be okay. We'll be okay. Said by a woman who had just lost her brother. Was flying home to raise her dead brother's 9-year-old daughter in a 1-bedroom apartment on a librarian's salary. With no plan beyond love and stubbornness. Daniel felt something crack open in his chest that he hadn't known was sealed. He excused himself to use the restroom. He stood at the small sink, gripping the edges of it. And looked at himself in the mirror. He thought about the last board meeting, where they discussed ways to reduce their effective tax rate. He thought about his vacation home in Aspen, sitting empty for 9 months of the year. He thought about the $14,000 watch on his wrist, a birthday gift to himself. He thought about the $40,000 that had stood between Marcus Maddox and his heartbeat. $40,000. To Daniel Hargrove, $40,000 was a rounding error. It was what he spent on client dinners in a quarter. It was less than the monthly lease on his Manhattan office. It was nothing. It was absolutely nothing. And it was everything. He stood there for a long time. Then he took out his phone. When he returned to his seat, Claire had stopped crying. She looked tired in the way that comes after grief, hollowed out, but calm. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. Sure, she said. The hospital Marcus owed money to, do you know the name of it? She looked at him strangely. Northwestern Memorial. Why? And Marcus's fundraiser, is it still active? I think so. I haven't had the heart to close it. Why are you? What's Lily's full name? Claire stared at him. Lily Grace Maddox. Daniel, what are you? I'm going to need the name of Marcus's casket provider. Or funeral home, if you haven't settled that bill. And I'd like to know which school Lily will be attending. Claire looked at him like he had started speaking another language. I don't understand. Daniel leaned forward slightly. He spoke carefully, because he wanted her to hear every word. I run an investment firm. I have more money than I will ever be able to spend in my lifetime. I have spent the last 15 years making it grow. And I have given very little of it away. Because I told myself I was too busy, or that I'd do it later. Or that the problem was too big for one person to solve. He paused. Claire, your brother died for $40,000. I want you to know that I can write that check right now and not feel it. That's not something I say with pride. That's something I am ashamed of. Claire's mouth opened slightly. She said nothing. I'm going to clear Marcus's hospital debt, Daniel said. I'm going to cover his funeral costs in full. I'm going to make a significant donation to his fundraiser. And I want whatever is raised to go into an education account for Lily. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a business card, simple, clean, with just his name and a direct line. I'd also like to speak to a real estate attorney. I know in Queens about helping you find a larger apartment. I can cover the difference in rent for 2 years while you get settled. The silence between them was complete. Claire stared at the card in his hand. She didn't take it yet. Why? She finally asked. Her voice was barely above a whisper. You don't know us. Daniel considered the question seriously. Because you told me the truth, he said. Because you didn't ask me for anything. Because your brother worked himself to death trying to save his own life and still came up short. And that should not be possible in a country where people like me exist. He set the card on the armrest between them. Because Lily is 9 years old and she's already lost both parents. And she deserves to grow up in a home with enough room to breathe. And because I sat down on this plane planning to work for 3 hours. And I think meeting you might be the most important thing that's happened to me in a very long time. Claire looked at the card. She looked at him. Her chin trembled. He would have liked you, she said softly. Marcus. He always said the problem with rich people isn't that they have money. It's that they forget what it feels like to need something. He was right, Daniel said. She picked up the card. The plane landed at JFK at 6:47 p.m. Daniel walked through the terminal beside Claire until they reached the point where paths diverge. Rideshares in one direction. A waiting town car in the other. He made 3 phone calls before they parted. His attorney. His accountant. The hospital billing department at Northwestern Memorial. Before she left, Claire turned back once. Daniel, she said. Thank you. Not just for all of it. Thank you for closing your laptop. He nodded. She walked away into the moving current of the crowd. And Daniel stood there watching until she disappeared. 3 months later. Daniel established the Marcus Maddox Medical Fund, a nonprofit designed to cover surgical costs for uninsured Americans whose lives depended on procedures they couldn't afford. He seeded it with $5 million of his own money. On the day of the launch, he received a text from an unknown number. It was a photo, a little girl with bright eyes and her father's smile. Sitting at a desk in what looked like a new bedroom. A stack of library books beside her. Beneath the photo, Claire had written. Lily started 3rd grade today. She told her teacher she wants to be a doctor when she grows up. I thought you should know. Daniel looked at the photo for a long time. Then he set his phone down, walked to the window of his office overlooking Manhattan. And felt, for the first time in longer than he could remember, that his life was pointed in the right direction. Some meetings aren't coincidences. Some strangers carry stories that were meant to find you. And sometimes, all it takes to change a man is a woman who cries quietly. And the simple choice to close your laptop and ask if she's okay.